The movie opens with a little boy named Eli running in his backyard on a bright, sunny day. Everything is fine till he suddenly starts coughing and his skin starts burning and blistering under the sun. He calls out to his parents, standing nearby with other family members, but no one seems to hear him. His vision gets blurry and he soon passes out. Eli suddenly wakes up and finds himself on his bed, which is inside a plastic bubble. It is a nightmare he has had many times, and he shares it with his mom, Rose, who comes to check on him. Eli suffers from a rare disease that causes severe allergic reactions if exposed to the outside world. Due to this, he is forced to confine himself in a protective bubble. In their quest to find a cure for their son's condition, Rose and her husband, Paul, are taking him to Dr. Isabella Horn's medical facility. Eli prepares to leave, and after changing into disinfected clothes, he dons protective gear that allows him to venture outside during the daytime. They soon leave the motel and travel to a secluded place where they stop in front of a large old house that is modernized and turned into a quarantine center. A strange mist envelops everything, making the colors look like it's a Twilight movie. The door automatically opens for the family, and Dr. Horn welcomes them through a speaker. She then briefs them about the decontamination chamber and asks them to step in one by one. Eli enters first and is greeted by Dr. Horn and her two assistants. Rose and Paul soon follow, and after sharing pleasantries, Dr. Horn asks Eli to take his suit off. Eli is scared to do so, but Rose assures him that it is a clean house. However, Eli needs time to fully believe that he can roam freely without a suit without jeopardizing his health, considering the house looks like it's from one of the X-Men movies. So they don't push him, and Dr. Horn continues explaining the 3-stage treatment to Eli and his parents as she escorts them to their rooms. Eli is elated that he can finally enjoy the little things like embracing his parents and the small comforts of life that he had been devoid of for the past couple of years. Eli cries when he first hugs his mom and the first time he can enjoy a shower. At night, Eli stays awake because of the creaking noise coming from the ceiling. He hears a tapping on the window, making him look out and see an insect slamming against the glass. The insect soon flies off, and Eli sees fog forming on the corner of the glass as if someone is breathing on it, but there is no one. Suddenly, the invisible entity touches the foggy part, leaving fingerprints, which scares Eli, and he rushes into his parents' room, shaking because of what he just witnessed. That night, he sleeps in his parents' room. Eli's treatment starts the next day, and he is tied to a surgical table. Dr. Horn explains to Eli that she is going to inject a modified virus that will reset his entire immune system. After he is given general anesthesia, Dr. Horn asks him to count backwards from 100, and as he does, she uses a bone punch to remove tissues. While Eli concentrates on seeing their reflection on the steel chair before him, he suddenly sees a disfigured apparition before he passes out. He returns to his senses and finds himself lying on his back, still tied to the bed. He pleads with Dr. Horn to make it stop as he feels a burning sensation throughout his body. It only intensifies and he screams in pain as several burn rashes appear on his entire body. Eli finally wakes up in his room with an IV cannula. He removes his IV when he again hears taps on his windows. It turns out to be the girl he saw while coming to the facility. She signals him to come down, and Eli rushes down to find a room with an extension entirely covered with glass. The girl appears before him and introduces herself as Haley. Eli tries to impress her using his card trick, but Haley is not interested and instead offers to show him a magic trick. She says she can light a twig on fire using her mind, and to demonstrate it, Haley takes a twig and turns for 2 seconds, and as she turns back, the twig is on fire. Eli asks how she did the trick, but Haley dismisses him and says some things he needs to figure out on his own. She also reveals something is off about the place and asks him to keep their meeting a secret, as Dr. Horn doesn't like her that much. While returning, he comes face to face with a ghost of a girl, but she disappears when his father comes looking for him. He warns Eli not to wander in the house by himself. Later that night, while Eli is reading his book in his room, the apparition of a little girl revisits him, and Eli tries to talk to her by breathing on the window and writing his name. The ghost girl also breathes on the window and writes, "Lie." Eli suddenly starts panicking because the ghost appears before him and pulls him, making him scream for help. Paul and Rose rush in but are unable to calm him down. They send for Dr. Horn, who gives him some medication to relax his nerves. Rose asks Dr. Horn if she could lower the dose as she cannot bear to see her child suffering. But Paul pulls her aside and whispers to her that they have put everything on the line, so she should let the doctor do her job. The second procedure starts, and after Eli is injected with the same modified virus, they make a hole in his head by drilling through it because the virus cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. At dinner, Eli shares his concern that Dr. Horn is making him sicker. Rose tries to reason with him and says he is hallucinating because of the medication. But when Eli doesn't budge, Paul is assertive and gives Eli a choice of leaving and being sick forever or staying and getting better. Eli chooses the latter, and that ends the discussion. Haley visits him, but before he can go downstairs, he gets distracted by the running water in his bathroom. Suddenly, a huge apparition attacks him, and he hides in his closet, which the ghost shatters. When Eli steps out, he finds "lie" or maybe yodeling lyrics scratched all over the closet door. Paul, Rose, and Dr. Horn rush in after hearing the noise and confront him. He tells them what he saw, but no one is ready to believe it was a ghost's doing. The next night, Eli meets Haley, and Haley points out he looks terrible. He confides in her about the house being haunted, and Haley believes him. She says the kid before him, Perry, said the same as she used to talk to him, but after the third procedure, she never saw him again. Eli talks about leaving when the lights start flickering, and Eli is dragged by ghosts of 3 kids who had been patients there. They carry him to the decontamination chamber and open the main door, but Eli is too afraid to leave. As he starts hyperventilating, Dr. Horn pulls Eli inside the house, and soon his parents come running. Eli calls Dr. Horn a liar and says he knows about Perry, and in a fit of rage, slams his fist, shattering a glass frame before he loses consciousness. While resting after gaining consciousness, Eli notices that he has been reading the message the ghosts tried to give him wrong. If he reversed it, lie becomes 317, and he figures it might be the code to the medical wing, which remains locked. Eli waits for everyone to fall asleep at night and goes to investigate. As he suspected, the mechanical door opens with a passcode, and he reaches the procedure room that leads to Dr. Horn's office. Eli goes inside and starts searching for the medical records of the old patients. He finds a locked drawer, but he seems to have hidden talents in lockpicking and manages to open it and find his file, along with the files of patients before him, all indicating that they all died after the third treatment. Meanwhile, Rose and Paul argue after Paul discloses that there is a possibility that Eli might not make it after the end of the treatment. Rose accuses him of lying to her because Paul was the one who found Dr. Horn and convinced Rose by saying that she had a 100% success rate. Believing Eli's life is in danger, Rose starts packing, making Paul furious, and he starts yelling at her. The commotion wakes Dr. Horn, whose room is near the treatment room. She sees Rose ready to leave, but Dr. Horn convinces her to stay and watch her son get better. Eli narrowly escapes being caught by one of the nurses and rushes to his parents' room to tell them the truth. He sees Paul and tells him everything, but Paul sedates him the first chance he gets, and the nurses drag him to the treatment room with his parents following him. Eli resists, and after freeing himself, he locks himself in Dr. Horn's room, where a crane fly leads Eli to a picture that reveals Dr. Horn and the nurses are, in fact, nuns. The crane fly then leads Eli to a secret passage to the basement. Eli looks around and finds several religious items, but as soon as he turns back, he finds Dr. Horn and his parents standing behind the barricade, and Dr. Horn locks him in. Eli pleads with them to let him out and starts hyperventilating, but they all leave them suffering there, with Dr. Horn saying he knows. Eli passes out but soon wakes up and finds he can breathe properly. He's upset that his parents lied to him about being sick and that he was going to die. He shouts, and the entire house's lights glitch. Overwhelmed by guilt, Rose is filled with a sudden urge to see her son, and ignoring everybody's advice not to go down there, Rose meets Eli and apologizes for lying to him. She says she only did it to protect him from the outside world. Eli sits facing the other way and pretends to pass out. When Rose sees this, she unlocks the gate and rushes in, only to be attacked by Eli, who uses a crucifix to knock her out. He rushes outside and locks himself in the glass room, and using a fire extinguisher, he tries to get out by breaking the glass. Haley suddenly appears before him and encourages him to be brave, as he is stronger than the ones before him. Paul breaks open the door and drags Eli to the procedure room, where he is strapped to the bed. Rose soon wakes up and finds a dagger hidden in the crucifix Eli used to attack her with. She also discovers the monument in the middle of the room contains the bodies of Dr. Horn's previous patients. She rushes to the procedure room with a dagger and threatens to attack them if anybody tries to hurt her son, but she is betrayed by Paul, who takes the blade from her on the pretext of saving Eli and gives it to Dr. Horn while he holds back Rose. Dr. Horn prepares to exorcise Eli and sprinkles holy water on him, which burns Eli's skin. She starts reciting Bible verses, and when she is done, she takes the sacrificial knife and is about to stab Eli in his heart. But Eli's will to save himself strengthens, and he stops the blade right before it can pierce through his skin, using some telekinetic power. Using the same powers, he then forces Dr. Horn to stab herself. The two nurses rush to her aid and prepare to leave the room, but Eli burns his traps, freeing himself, and lets out a scream that sends everything in the room flying. He uses his power to stop the three women from escaping and lifts them upside down, making them spread their arms to form an inverted cross. Eli's skin and eyes change to red, and in a roaring voice, he questions Rose what they have been putting in his body. Rose discloses they injected holy water and tannins root injections, a suppression medication, while Dr. Horn worked on his genes. He asks Rose about his identity, and suddenly the nurses burst into flames. Rose discloses that when the Lord didn't answer her prayers, she turned to the devil and was blessed with Eli, implying Eli is the son of Satan. Rose apologizes to Eli for keeping it a secret and hiding him from the world. In the meantime, Paul regains consciousness and grabs the dagger to stab Eli, but Eli points his finger at Paul's face and blows it up, killing him instantly. Eli walks out of the facility and everything catches fire behind him. Once outside, he takes a deep breath, finally breathing in open air. Rose steps out of the burning house soon after, revealing Eli spared her life as she was the only one who didn't want to hurt him. He is greeted by Haley, who says she is right in believing he is stronger than the others. She tells him the previous three patients were his half-brother and sister, and reveals that she is also the devil's child like Eli. Eli questions her why she didn't say anything earlier, and she replies that he wouldn't have believed her if she had told him. She offers to take Eli to meet their dad and asks Rose to drive them. The three drive away in the truck, leaving the burning house of horror behind. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.